Hey everybody, happy Thursday the 17th. Getting ready for some snow tonight, Thursday, and into Saturday as well. Not into Saturday, but Saturday as well here in PA. But there's three things I wanted to talk about tonight. If I run a little bit long, I apologize. I find two of them remarkable. In fact, I find all three remarkable for different reasons. Um, so let me get into the first one. The first one is journey related. Um, I had a really neat day in Chicago on my journey when I met Gary Gartrell. I've never met Gary before. And as Gary and I wrapped up our day together, he said to me, "Hey, what is it you do? And how do you get where you're going? And where do you know where you're staying?" And the answer is, "I don't." So I kind of told him my MO, and he said, "Well, I've got a town for you. I'll take you to. I think you'd really enjoy it." So look, this is what the journey's about. I don't know where I'm going. So he took me to a town called Woodstock, Illinois, which Woodstock is where they filmed the movie Groundhog Day, as it turns out. And there was a restaurant in town called the Public House. And the owner, and I'm doing her a disservice because I forgot her name, had heard I was coming to town through Facebook. And she wasn't in town. She sent me an email and apologized because she'd love to have met me. But she basically told her staff and restaurant to essentially welcome me like family. And they did. It was such a warm experience. It's a fairly big restaurant. And I can tell you, every server, maitre d is the right, if that's the right word, hostess, bartender, they were nothing but polite to me and engaging, and it was wonderful. And there was one young lady in particular, her name was Brittany, that I just adored. She's a young lady, and she was such a free spirit. I think she's the kind of person that you look at and you kind of wish that she just seemed to have no worries and just really got life and appreciated it. And a couple of days ago, somebody sent me a video on the Facebook. I posted it, and Brittany had responded to it and said she, really touched her. And it started a little Facebook conversation between her and I. And I said, look, had a great time and can't wait to take the kids back through there. And I asked her if she was still at the Public House. And, if we all look at ourselves, so many people have the yeah, but kind of thing when it comes to their jobs or careers, or are you happy? Yeah, but, you know, or they're miserable. I said, I don't know the lifespan, not lifespan, but the longevity of a server. I've never worked in the restaurant industry, but I imagine it's not very long. High turnover, I expected. So I asked her, "You still there?" And I half expected her to say, "No, I moved on and I'm over here. I did this." She's young. And her answer was just, beautiful, and probably the ultimate compliment. She could pay the restaurant and the ownership and her coworkers and her peers. She said, "Oh yeah, I'm still there. So I absolutely love it there. I hope I never leave." And that was it. But how beautiful would it be? How many of us, in any facet of our life, would love to be able to say, "You know what? I love my job that much. I hope I never leave." You know. I really do enjoy my job right now, but there are trying days and times. And to have her say that so simply, I thought was just the most beautiful compliment she can give. Again, I'm doing the owner a disservice, but if anybody hears this, please post it to their page or let them know that that's how this young lady feels. Because what an incredible compliment I think that is. So I thought that was pretty remarkable because it's just so rare to see such a simple, positive response to anybody. Most people feel overworked and underpaid, and I think it's a great compliment. The other thing, okay, the next topic might set a few people off, and I hope I explain it the way I want to. I don't really care if you agree or disagree with what I'm about to say, because I'm going to give a couple of examples. But this was so remarkably ignorant, but it is one, it's telling to some degree because I've experienced this. In fact, I told the story while on my journey about kind of what I was talking about, what point the thumb means. And I'll tell you a true story about that as I was a manager at a facility. So, a couple of days ago, first of all, I'm not going to take credit for this. The story I'm going to tell you, I heard about from a radio show, and I followed through with it. There's two stories, actually, from the Clay Travis show, which I listened to, and I want to give him the props for that. But so here's two stories that kind of go hand in hand. You will never hear me say that racism is over, doesn't exist. It exists on many different levels still. But there's a lot of sensitive issues, whether it be the Me Too movement, anything involving politics, certainly racism, um, and they're all very valid. And in the book, you'll hear about an experience I had. I'm actually writing about it probably tonight. I'm in that chapter where I experienced some of this myself, where I was not the victim, but anyway. So the problem I have is that people, it's just so easy to grab low-hanging fruit, to not point the thumb at themselves, okay? So the situation, I'm actually going to read it to you because I have it on my computer behind me. But there's a national radio host on XM satellite radio, and it was having a radio show with a woman named Areva Martin, who happens to be, I think, an attorney and on the Dr. Phil show all the time. But they were talking about race and career in the media world. And this gentleman's name is David Webb, okay? And David Webb says, I've chosen to cross different paths of the media world, done the work so that I'm qualified to be in each one. I never considered my color the issue. I considered my qualifications the issue. To which Martin, a civil rights attorney who co-hosts the syndicated talk show Face the Truth, responded, well, David, that's a whole other long conversation about white privilege. And things that you have the privilege of doing that people of color don't have the privilege of. And he said, well, how do I have the privilege of white privilege? And again, if you hear that live, you should play it, and I'm going to post it to my site. Said, David, by virtue of being a white male, you have white privilege. This whole long conversation, I don't have the time to get into it. And he cut her off. He said, Areva, I hate to break it to you, but you should have been better prepped. I'm black. So here's this national radio host that doesn't even understand the context of the situation, but is so quick to run to white privilege, okay? Now, I'm not trying to dismiss that racism doesn't exist, but every time somebody does something and just reaches for it when it's not there, it just does the whole issue a disservice. All right? Another similar one, and I'm going to talk about this, and I know I'm going to piss some people off, but I'm sorry, it's just how I feel. We had a Supreme Court justice some time ago being nominated, and he was being held back, or we had hearings after hearings and money and travel and GoFundMe pages raised to fight this guy because of a sexual violation he committed when he was 18 years old. Now, where I have my issues is with the sexual violation portion. And here's my point. In this day and age, if somebody just states something, okay, you're deemed guilty. And I'm not here to say there aren't sexual violators out there. I'm not saying that no doesn't mean no. But there's something to be said. I don't know any person that I've ever known. Hell, Hollywood glorifies it since the 50s. I mean, how many movies and TV shows has some kids in the back seat necking and making out? And it always comes down to, wait, should we? Do you really mean it? Do you really love me? I don't know if we should. And this little cat and mouse game. So does every teenager that ever had to try to, go to the movie theater and put his arm around his girlfriend and try to cop a feel, is that a sexual violation? I mean, there's a certain part of innocence and growing up versus violation. I don't know what happened with Kavanaugh. I don't. But I know it was 40 years ago, and there comes a point where common sense has to take place. And the point I'm trying to make, though, is that, and the people like this goofball Areva Martin, while she did apologize for it immediately and was quite embarrassed by it, what she did now was she shot the cause in the foot, because now anybody that is ignorant enough to think racism doesn't exist will point to that. Well, see, all you ever do is go for white privilege, right? All you ever do is blame racism. All you ever do is this or that. I'll give you an example of how I say point the thumb. I was managing a facility before a year or so before I left, and I had this woman come up to me, and she said, Jim, you got to change my shift. I can't do this anymore. She said, my supervisor's up my butt all the time. And I said, well, why do you feel he's up your butt all the time? He doesn't like me because I'm black. Okay. So I'll tell you what, let's get out your time card, and you look at your time card, and you've been late 5 times in the last 10 days. Yeah, but only 3 minutes. So again, he's doing the job that he's paid to do, to write you up and make sure that you're here on time. And as a result of that, he's up your butt and doesn't like it, and doesn't like you that you need to transfer because you're black. As if you go to a different shift, you're going to be here on time every time. So, I'm not saying racism doesn't exist, but it's just so easy to go to some of these things. And every time you do, you shoot that cause in the foot as a result. And I'm going to post it to my website, but this Ariva Martin thing was too funny. The guy just said what he said and already said, well, that's because you have white privilege. That's why you don't have the problem. Sweetie, I'm black. Oh, okay. Sorry, my bad. My people told me wrong was what she said. The other one that I thought was pretty crazy was the Clemson football team got a visit to the White House. Now, most of the time, presidents treat the teams pretty well. Well, President Trump, and again, credit Clay Travis for bringing us to the light. President Trump, if you saw the picture, had just a ton of fast food for the teams. And, frankly, I think that's retarded. Well, I'll get yelled at for saying retarded. I think it's a very dumb idea. I think it shows he's a moron. But I certainly don't think it's racist. But yesterday, an ESPN reporter tried to say, I find it, racist that he wants to give a sport with predominantly African-American men hamburgers, fast food. How racist. Well, when you look at the studies, the Clemson football team is 50% white and 50% black. So again, here you are just screaming racism with no foundation, and all it does is go to shoot people in the foot. To wrap up, the other thing I think is kind of remarkable is this. One of the athletes I tend to back is a guy named LeBron James, the greatest basketball player in the world right now. But he's been maligned for whatever reason, okay? A lot of people's whipping boy. Well, years ago, he came to Cleveland. There was a ball player named Kyrie Irving. And this goes back to my conversation the other day about ego. And I do think this is remarkable. Because people with large egos tend to not want to be able to admit wrongdoing or apologize. Kyrie Irving was on the Cavaliers when the greatest player in the world came to the team. And instead of embracing it and looking to build with him and build a champion, Kyrie was more concerned about me. I wanted to be the guy. I'm the guy. And when you're in a small, the team of 12 people, it can get kind of contentious. So he made it clear he was unhappy. He wanted to be traded. He wanted out. He acted like a petulant little child. And as a result, every conversation, every interview, the whole team had to address this issue for the better part of a year. Well, Kyrie Irving got his way, and he went to the Celtics, and he plays for the Celtics now. So last night, and I don't understand why sports reporters right now today are looking at it with a skewed angle, but he called LeBron James. Now, I know he didn't have to announce this and give himself some self-aggrandizing props, but he called LeBron James and apologized and said, you know what, I'm trying to be a leader now, and I see what it's like to deal with these kind of attitudes, and that was the attitude I gave you, and you didn't deserve it, and I was wrong. And just that little bit, the simple, a humble person sometimes can't admit they're wrong and that they've made a mistake. You're talking about a immensely talented professional athlete, so ego is just crazy. On top of that, this guy's particular ego is what caused him to want to, leave. So for me, anybody that has the ability to kind of point the thumb at themselves and say, hey, I was wrong, and not only say it to themselves or to their family, but to call up the person who they created the aggravation for and admit it to that person, I think it's just such a huge positive step. What an amazing thing that somebody can own that, right? I know there's hidden meanings behind what he did. If you're really into sports, you know that he was sending a message to his own teammates. And again, he's the one that brought out that he made the phone call, kind of giving himself some more props. But ultimately, again, to go on national TV or an interview and say, look, I had to call the guy and apologize because, man, did I miss the boat. With a person with that kind of ego, I thought was remarkable. Gotta go, guys. Run out of time. Love you. Thanks for listening. I hope it didn't offend. Well, I don't care if I offended anybody. Have a great night.